And welcome back. This is my recent edited video of the vertical stabilizer. As I said before, I had to reorder some parts. This is what I'm unpacking now. It's the vertical stabilizer skin and the rear spar doubler. As I had mentioned in previous videos, I had made some mistakes while putting these pieces together. This piece I had countersunk too deeply in a couple places, and figured that took too much material away and too much of the structural integrity away from it, so went ahead and ordered a new piece there. And then the vertical stabilizer skin, I had tried to finagle one of the holes with the pneumatic hole punch and or a pneumatic squeezer, and accidentally punctured a hole adjacent to where I was trying to dimple, so wasn't able to fix that either. So I ordered those new parts. They came in, but while I was waiting, I decided to start on the rudder. So when they came in, I just kept working on the rudder, and the rudder is now complete, so I decided to get back to work on the vertical stabilizer. So here you see me, I'm actually redoing some of the rivets that I had done on the doubler for the front spar of the vertical stabilizer. When I had put it in, I didn't like the fact that they weren't put in the same way as the rivets below them. So looking at other folks' videos and pictures of their vertical stabilizers, I decided to take these rivets out, which is what you see me trying to do here, and reset the rivets the same direction as the rest of the rivets there, so they don't match on the same face. The machine head on the same side of the spar. And so in the process of removing the four here, in the process is fairly simple as long as you don't go crazy when you're trying to drill it out. The cautionary tale being you don't want to oversize the hole. So what you do is you take your drill bit, which for the size 3 rivets, I use the number 40 drill bit, which is what you use to also drill out the hole to match drill it for that size rivet. But you only basically drill out the head of the rivet, the machine head. And the machine head has a mark, a center tapped, if you will, on the head, so that when you put the drill bit onto it, it should hold steady pretty well. And you just kind of work the drill bit to kind of eat away the middle of the machine head. Basically, your goal is to get the head to pop off on its own. You're not trying to drill all the way through if you don't have to. That minimizes your chance that you will actually enlarge the hole. So what I tried to do is just drill out the machine head till it pops off, and then you see me there using a tap set, what I call it, or a punch set, I'm sorry, and try to punch out the shaft of the rivet, or at least loosen it up a little bit. But then also you can get a set of pliers and work it from the other side, and basically pull the remaining portion of the rivet out. Sometimes you may have to drill into it a little bit more just to get rid of some of the material, and finally you'll be able to pull it out. But the goal is to try to minimize chances of oversizing that hole again for obvious reasons. So now I'm going through deburring the new rear spar doubler. I'll go through the bench and also take the tool, the deburring tool, to run on the inner holes, the I call them weight saving holes, on the material there. Basically you want to, just like every other piece, get rid of all the sharp edges, which in turn minimizes chances for cracking later on. So I go through this process, match everything up. I've got to go through all the same match drilling steps that I had already performed on the previous piece. This time obviously being more careful about how I do the countersinking. Again, the method that you want to follow when doing countersinking is start as shallow as you can and make very minute adjustments until you get to the right depth, using a rivet of the correct size as a gauge. So you take a little material out, test it with your rivet, see if it's flush. If it's not, just make a very small, maybe an eighth of a turn adjustment, and keep going until you get to the right depth. It's always easy to take more material out. It's impossible to put it back in, as they say. So go through and mark everything the way you have, the way that I did on the first piece. Try to match everything up as best as possible. And then it'd just be a matter of clecoing the doubler to the rear spar. And here I'm setting up to use my drill press to do the countersinking. It's a lot easier if you can set it up this way. I've found you're not going to be able to do every surface like this with the drill bit or with the drill press, especially if you're working flanges. I've just found it easier when I started work on the horizontal stabilizer. You have to countersink some of the flange holes because they'll be flush mounted with the skins, and you have, or at least when I set mine up, I had clecos set on the opposite side as well, so I couldn't use the drill press. So you will use the hand drill to use for the countersink piece as well, but if you're able to, I would highly recommend using the drill press. It's just a much more stable platform and easier to set everything up and get a more uniform countersink in all the holes that you're working. So now I got everything set up. Go through, cleco everything together to the rear spar. These are the 3/8, I believe it, or I'm sorry, 1/8 clecos. So then they're the size number 30 drill bit for the size 4 rivets, and these are the rounded head rivets. I believe it's a 476 style rivet, or 470, I believe, and so just going through and clecoing every other hole. There's a couple on there that you will not rivet. One being toward the bottom, where there's a electrical connection goes through the hole, and then a couple others where the ribs will attach to, so you don't want to rivet those, obviously. So just make sure as you're going through the plans that you pay attention to which ones do and do not get dimpled, and mark off. Best to use tape or some form of marking to make sure that you don't overdo it and don't accidentally rivet the wrong holes. And here, just going through and attaching the flange, the hinge flanges. These are where the rudder will attach to the vertical stabilizer, and these will be riveted in place as well. There are 2 holes on the bottom hinge set that you will drill out later on to a larger size. I believe it's where the bolts will go to attach the vertical stabilizer to the cone, to the main body of the airplane. But that's not until a later step. So you just make sure you get all of the other holes in those hinges, except for the 2 that are pointed out in the instructions. And just going through and drilling as I go, and then moving the clecos to get around and finish the rest of it out. So in the next couple videos, I'm going to try to get a little bit more. I'm working with changing the speed of the playback, so it's a little bit more material per video session, I guess. So this is sped up just a little bit from what I have been doing. This is about an hour's worth of recording, changed down to, or sped up to about 11 minutes total video time. So I'm again working on that process, trying to make it a little more interesting, but still not so fast that it's essentially useless. I want some value out of what is seen on the video. And in upcoming videos, I'll actually have a little more of myself talking to the video as I'm going through a step, and try to just bring a little bit of education to what I'm doing here. So anyway, if you get a chance, hit that like button. I appreciate it, and allows more folks to come across these videos and hopefully get a little idea of what they might be getting into should they be thinking about building an RV. Thanks for watching.